If you look for it, I've got a sneaky feeling you'll find that love actually is all around.
Matt,
Hello.
This is it. This is our Colin Firth and Hugh Grant episode.
Different.
Now, it seems a bit weird because it's very specific. But there is a reason. It is their birthday this month.
Yep.
It's very strange because they're quite similar, or they seem quite similar on the surface, but they're only a day apart as well, which is like,
Yeah.
it's like they're almost the same person.
I don't know any other actors who have done such similar work and also were born literally seconds apart. It's almost like it was like fated or something. It is unusual.
Yeah. They're both big British stars, both of a similar bumbling charm, haven't they?
Sort of a persona.
Yeah. And obviously, we're going to look at this through a series of films, which we always do. But we'll also, I think, see when we're doing just a quick overview of their careers that they are actually quite different.
They are, yeah.
Their choices and the routes that they've gone down are actually very different. So we'll kick it off with Hugh Grant because he is one day older. So we'll start with him and go in order. And so we'll kick it off to you.
Okay.
Matt, to start.
Well, yeah, this was interesting. It's one of those people, in fact, both of them probably, I just never thought to look into them before, so this was interesting. Yeah, so Hugh Grant was born one day earlier. He was on the 9th of September 1960. He actually studied English at Oxford University. And acting was only really a thing on the side, so he did stuff with the Dramatic Society, and his very first film was with the Oxford University Film Foundation. And that was also the debut of people like Mark Williams, composer Rachel Portman. That was her first film work as well. So that's quite interesting. I'd never seen that. I don't know if it's widely accessible. And then, he sort of did writing comedy sketches for TV shows and radio commercials, and he had a sketch comedy group, and he had lots of mini roles in TV and film and stuff. But he got his first big break in a Merchant Ivory drama called Maurice, or Morris, they call it.
Ian Forster, isn't it?
It is, yeah. For a first film, it's bloody good. And he actually won joint with James Wilby, who plays the main character. They both shared the Best Actor award at the Venice Film Festival that year.
Oh, wow.
So that's like a really good first shout.
Yeah, it's a cracking start.
Yeah, and his career goes in sort of 3 stages, and this first stage is these period dramas. So he did another Merchant Ivory drama, The Remains of the Day, with Anthony Hopkins and Emma Thompson.
Yes, that's right.
And then obviously Emma Thompson adapted Sense and Sensibility and asked him to be in that as well.
It's who you know.
Well, it seems like it, and they are going to meet again.
They are.
But then, obviously, he was well known for doing all of the rom-com stuff, and he was actually 34 when Four Weddings was released, which is kind of bizarre.
Yeah, because he's so young, yeah.
Innocence about him at that point. He's really well known for Four Weddings. He auditioned, but Richard Curtis didn't really like him at all. He wanted the role to be more like himself, so that you wouldn't expect him to get the girl at the end. But he came around to the idea, and Hugh Grant obviously won. He won a BAFTA for leading actor. He won a Golden Globe for Best Actor Musical Comedy, and this was that launched him. And on the back of that, with Richard Curtis, we got the likes of Notting Hill in '99.
Yeah.
He was nominated for a Golden Globe for that. Bridget Jones came after that, and the sequel is this sort of womanizer boss, Daniel Cleaver. 2 weeks' Notice with Sandra Bullock, About a Boy with Toni Collette and Rachel Weisz. He was nominated for a Golden Globe for that. Then Love Actually, massive film, music and lyrics with Drew Barrymore. And then did you hear about The Morgans as well, which was the sort of critical commercial flop, I think.
Yeah, it's when the turning point started to come, I think.
Yeah. And then after that, people have referred to it as like a Hugh Grant resurgence. So it kind of is.
It is, yeah.
Because the roles he started doing was vastly different. I mean, the first big thing he did after that was Cloud Atlas, which then was the most expensive independent film ever made, playing 6 villains.
And that was very out of character for him. It was not what you would expect him to come out with after his like previous films. But that was quite impressive, though, I think, because people looked at him differently.
Yeah. And then things like, he did The Rewrite, which is a rom-com, but it's a new angle, really, that better reflected his age and his career. Florence Foster Jenkins was still comedy, but more serious performance.
Yeah, there was something more in it, wasn't there, in that one? A bit more substance.
Again, BAFTA nominated, Golden Globe, SAG nominated. Things like Paddington 2, which came along, again, quite a self-reflexive role. It's him poking fun at himself and his career, I think, and it works perfectly. Nominated for BAFTA.
Yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
And then most recently was The Gentleman, the Guy Ritchie action comedy film. So I think over time he's just found new ways to do things with what he already had. But yeah, so period rom-coms and resurgence is what I've managed to dig out of his career.
Okay, well, we'll go on to Colin Firth. So Colin Firth was born on the 10th of September 1960. We should say they're both turning 60, which is ridiculous.
Oh yes, that's true.
He was born in Hampshire, and by 14 he'd already decided he wanted to be a professional actor. And he ended up moving to London, and he joined the National Youth Theatre. And from that he then went on to study at the Drama Centre of London. And when you actually look, his career has kind of been split into sections, the same as Hugh Grant, really. So you've got kind of the 1983 to 94 period, and they call it the Brit Pack.
Oh, okay.
Up and coming British actor alongside people like Tim Roth and Bruce Payne and Paul McGann and people like that. He's obviously had a lot more success than some of those. It started off in a little TV episode, and he did a TV movie, lots of little things like that. But his big break, the thing that really put him on the map, was Pride and Prejudice, when he did the TV miniseries in 1995. And again, kind of exactly the same. He was 35 when he got that success.
Yeah.
And he is a lot of people's Mr. Darcy.
Oh, yeah.
Despite any other adaptations that have come before or since, he is Mr. Darcy. And it really, really set him on this path, which is where kind of the second instalment of his career started, really. From about 95 to 2002, it was the English romantic period of his career. He did roles in The English Patient. He was in a small but interesting part in Shakespeare in Love. The importance of being earnest, things like that. And then obviously finished that up with Bridget Jones, in which he played another Mr. Darcy. So he is quintessentially Mr. Darcy.
Pretty much.
And then after that, he kind of took a different route from there. You've got the likes of What a Girl Wants that he did with Amanda Bynes. And you've got Love Actually, which was a huge kind of British cast, which he was brilliant in. And then he was in Nanny McPhee with Emma Thompson, St. Trinian's, a number of films where he was working with other very well-known actors. And also then you had the other big ensemble film was Mamma Mia in 2008. And so he kind of had this kind of ensemble period. But after that, it really takes a turn. It's like he did Mamma Mia, had loads of fun, and was like, right, okay, I'm going to really get down to it now. And he started making really interesting choices, really like awards worthy. And this is where this more serious period of his career started. You've got things started off with A Single Man in 2009, which was very different for him. I think a lot of people are like, oh my God, this is Colin Firth, wow. And that got awards attention. And then he went on to do The King's Speech, which he won the Best Actor Oscar for, and he was brilliant in that. Then you've got the likes of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, things like The Railway Man. And obviously, I think more recently he has turned back to a more lighter fare. You've got the likes of Bridget Jones' Baby, which he was in. He was in Mamma Mia 2, The Kingsman, Mary Poppins Returns, things like that. Secret Garden, I think, is what his most recent one. But there's a few more serious ones, like kind of stuck in there. The Mercy, for instance. I think he just picks what he wants to do. There's not really a clear choice for him now. I think he goes between light and more serious.
Yeah, it sort of goes in waves, doesn't it? Every 5 years he'll have a change and do the opposite.
Yeah, whatever he's in the mood for. But I think he's been successful in all that he's done.
Yeah.
He's just reliable. He's a joy to watch. Most of his films are, if not greatly successful, or at least, entertaining to watch, and enjoyable. Yeah, and well liked. And I think he is a draw You know, he does draw people in. So yeah,
they're very interesting.
So that's our little summary of their kind of careers, and we're gonna jump right in with the first film, which is 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna let you start, Matt, because I'm sure you've got a few more positive things to say than I may have.
It's one of those, is it?
Oh, do you know, it's a funny one. It really is a funny one, because there are parts of it I think are brilliant and work really, really well.
Yeah.
But then there are other parts I hate with a passion.
Okay. Well,
so, yeah.
By the way, I hadn't watched this properly before, so this is
you'd never seen
is new to me. The interesting thing about this is that obviously rom-coms as they exist now didn't exist then.
No.
As such, especially not the British kind. So what Richard Curtis did in writing this, it was still finding its feet, I think. Where it's rough around the edges isn't necessarily a bad thing. So in the end, I actually found myself more drawn to this than maybe Notting Hill, for example.
Yeah, which is just following all of the cliches that have been built up.
And what I think really characterizes this one is that it's just a little bit more down to earth, I think, a little bit more realistic. There's still characters in there that are, you know, very wealthy and well off. As we go forwards through the other films, you'll see that lifestyles were a bit more idealized as you go along. But this one, it's kind of not. It's not ideal necessarily. And I think that's where the comedy's more observational. I think it's more based on
definitely
things that are relatable to everybody. And he did something really good in harnessing things like social occasions. It's in the name, really, weddings and funerals and things like that.
Yeah.
And Richard Curtis and all of his collaborators really have always been really good at picking apart British traditions and conventions. A lot of the comedy and the enjoyment for me was watching them literally pick apart everything associated with weddings. The people you bump into, the character types, the speeches, the vows, the outfits.
The first wedding, especially. It felt so realistic. I mean, it was. I think it was more British than any film I think I've ever seen before. The dancing at the first wedding, it was like totally true. It was awkward and messy and completely talentless. You know, it was real. It felt like a real wedding. All of the people kind of squashed together, and it was not choreographed and perfect. And you know, there was none of that.
There's like a rawness to it, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's like you say, Richard Curtis does capture that. I think he's very, very good at capturing some things that actually relate to people because it feels like real life.
Yeah. I mean, there's other things as well, like the music and the DJs and the wedding photo. He really does pick apart everything. As a result, the characters are also, you know, the awkwardness. British stereotypical tropes of, you know, lateness, drunkenness, being an absolute fool, over-apologising, putting your foot in it, saying the wrong thing. Like, it's just, the whole thing's chock-a-block.
I mean, if we didn't know this film was British before it started, we certainly knew when the swear words came out in those that very, very British accents. It was it put you on track straight away.
Good point as well, actually. Yeah, there is bad language. It's not throughout, but
that's real life.
Yeah, and sort of used flippantly as well. It's not. It wasn't for any specific effect. It was just, that's how people talk, so that's how we're going to do it. And I guess overall what really was standardised here is this sort of the curse of being a hopeless upper middle class Brit in romance. As endearing as it is, the frustrations that come with it, and I think that kind of was a staple from then on.
This made Hugh Grant's persona what so many copied afterwards. And it's something that Richard Curtis scripts always have, is that kind of adorable, bumbling British awkwardness. No one can quite pull off awkwardness like the British, I don't think. We just have a talent for it. And he does write that very well.
It sounds like he's a very romantic person.
Yeah, I think so. His films always have a theme of love. And I don't mean love as like, oh, so romantic. Real love, you know, relationships. Relationships with people, with friends and with family, sisters and brothers. And all of his films have love as a theme.
Yeah, and the different forms of it.
Yeah, he writes it very, very well. I'm very confident going into his films that I'm going to come away happy.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, he writes very satisfying films, and obviously with us being British as well, they are very relatable. I don't know how relatable they might be to Americans or people from other countries. I don't know what kind of effect they have on them, but they are extremely relatable to us.
Yeah. The funny thing about it is that at the core of them, if you strip away it sounds stupid, if you strip away the jokes, I guess, they're actually dramas.
Yeah.
And I think that's good in that you can still connect on a different level. The foundation of all the characters that are there is that, they are very real and fleshed out and human, I suppose.
Yeah.
But then something, again, I think over time slips in and becomes more of a staple is these, what are now cliches, but at the time didn't seem that cliche because they haven't really been done, I suppose. All the grand gestures and the speeches that people make, or running after someone, standing in the rain, or learning another language for someone.
Yeah, the boy meets girl, loses girl, finds girl kind of thing was in its infancy, really, at this point. Especially in British films, it wasn't really as well known, I don't think, at that point. So we should say, I'll give it a little bit more background as to what the film is about.
Oh, yeah.
It is in the title. It really is. It's 4 weddings and a funeral, and it's a group of friends, basically their experiences at these various weddings, characters that they meet there, and you kind of meet the characters that are going to get married earlier, and then it's their wedding, and then you follow on from there. And there's not really a lot to it. It's very simplistic. I have to say, though, I'm going to start ripping it apart here. There are parts of it, like I said, that I love. I think the script is in places fantastic. It's brilliant. I think it really shows off Hugh Grant. There's lots of great dialogue for him to stumble over there, and there's lots of small details that are really comedy gold, but you barely notice. Like, just for example, them sprinting past the joggers to get to the wedding. Like, little things that are just really funny things. Rowan Atkinson, brilliant in this. I think he started so well. The Holy Goat line is brilliant. It starts off, he seems like he's going to do all right, and then as soon as you hit that, it's like downhill from there. He is brilliant, and it's so well cast. This movie, Simon Callow as Gareth is brilliant. James Fleet is hilarious. He's basically playing the same part as he played in The Vicar of Dibley, but it's fantastic. Kristen Scott Thomas. She's divine in this. It's very subtle, but she's really good. Everyone except Andy McDowell. It was just annoying, and I just hate her. I'm sorry, but I just hate her.
No, she's not very good.
I think she was cast in this for her face, but I'm not even sure why, because she's not even that particularly pretty, I don't think.
What did I say to you? That she needs to brush her teeth?
I don't see what the attraction is to her.
It looks like she smells. Like she's someone who smells.
I get it at first. She's this, foreign oddity. She's American, and that's, exotic, and and she's so bloody forward. How could you resist? He liked her from sight, and then she's so forward with him, sleeps with him, but then she disappears,
just left off,
and then reappears with his fiance. So I mean, what a dick.
Yeah.
So she's obviously cheated on a fiance with him, which makes her a horrible person. Yeah. And she does it again, though, doesn't she? Yeah, she does it again. And she's obviously with this guy, for this exceedingly wealthy man for his money. And she doesn't care for him at all. That's quite obvious. I mean, she's an awful person. What are her redeeming features?
There's a scene in the cafe.
Oh my God, don't even get me started.
She hints that she's had a lot of partners, and he says, well, give me an idea. And she starts listing them all, but she hasn't.
33!
But it's not the number. It's more that she's saying it, and she has no consideration for how he feels.
No. but she's a complete slut.
She's not recognised that he's interested in her.
No, I think she knows.
She's done it on purpose.
She knows. I think so.
Evil
I think
bitch.
she knows. I think she just doesn't care.
Yeah.
She knows that he cares for her. I mean, she's not daft. And then she takes him wedding dress shopping. How cruel! I'll just rub your nose in it. Come shopping with me. I'm going to marry another guy.
Now you mention it, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think she's redeeming.
No.
But all of the side characters in this film are fantastic.
Yes.
They're all brilliant. Yeah. Honest to God, I could say with hand on heart, I would completely be fine if they took the rom-com aspect of this, the main plotline out.
Yeah, me too.
I would be completely happy with it because I don't get it. Why is she married this weird old man? And she loves Hugh Grant, so like, what's she doing? The background is better than what they've put forward, and I feel like it's promoting this relationship that's just wrong, really. I don't see it's a nice relationship, and why would you be wanting that? Why would you be, yearning for that kind of relationship? Because she's toxic.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I just don't understand it at all.
I mean, when you put it that way, I'm starting to see it.
Yeah, so this is why I'm very contradictory about it, because there were parts of it I loved. I think John Hannah is brilliant. I mean,
he's not in much, but I love him in everything.
He stole the film for me. That speech at the funeral is heartbreaking, and the poem it's perfectly chosen. And there were parts of this that were brilliant. Anything with Gareth in it, Simon Cowell was just fantastic. The scene where Kristen Scott Thomas, she admits that she's been in love with Charles that's Hugh Grant for years, and and it's just, sometimes it's just not fair. You fall in love with someone who's never going to love you back. And there are scenes in this that are fantastic, but it's just ruined for me by that main plot thread.
Yeah, but it goes to show how good having a supporting cast can be and an ensemble.
Exactly, and Richard Curtis's films really do have that.
Yeah.
He is very good at casting, I think. He really is. So I think we've covered all we can cover with that one. Yeah. So we're going to jump on to Bridget Jones' Diary, which features both of them.
Yeah. Now, I didn't watch this week.
Yes, you didn't watch this. I watched this one. And I have to admit, I mean, I liked it anyway, but it is just one of those, it's just enjoyable. Oh, it's a 21st century rom-com.
Yeah.
So it is very different in ways. There are elements of it that are much more modern, not quite 10 years later. The narrative of this is very well done, I think, because you learn everything you need to know about the character in a hilarious way, all within the first few minutes. The all by myself sequence is just brilliant.
So
it's a great way to introduce a character. And then you've got the narration. And I think that's particularly successful in this. It does feel like a very noughties thing, especially as it's told in like diary entries and resolutions. And that was quite popular in the early 21st century before kind of social media came in. And this, you get Hugh Grant as plays this kind of great smarmy bastard, basically. At least he had the decency to like look shamefaced when she found out he cheated on him. But other than that, he's pretty much horrible.
Yeah.
And he plays it really, really well. And though American, Renee Zellweger is absolutely perfectly cast in this part.
So, yeah, she is pretty good at doing it.
I think if people didn't know who she was, they could easily mistake her for English, because she really does kind of just feel the part. Yeah. She felt very British. She had like the awkwardness down, and she really picked up on those things that are quintessentially British. I think she was fantastic. I really do.
Like an unusual choice, but you can't picture anyone else doing it.
Very, very unusual. I don't think it went down well when it was first announced.
I'm not sure.
I think it was like you're picking an American from Texas to play Bridget Jones. It was like, why? There's so many British people you could pick. It's one of those types of things.
But she was Oscar nominated for this, I think.
Yeah, I think she really like blew it out of the park. I think people went, oh,
yeah,
that's why. I think the first one is the best. I think the others, was just rehashing, ideas from the first. Yeah. But I think she's just the type of character that's just really entertaining to watch.
Obviously, with this one based on the book.
Yeah, I have read the book. It's good. It's entertaining because it's very quick and it's sharp. And it's, I listened to the audiobook of it, which was interesting. But I actually think the film is better. I think they made a really, really good adaptation. And the things that they did with it worked really well.
Yeah. Now I think about it, because in essence it is kind of it's a parody of Pride and Prejudice, really.
Apparently, I can't really see it, to be honest. But
it's got me thinking, though, that obviously when it came to casting, it was a very deliberate choice to pick Colin Firth then.
Oh, absolutely. And to call him Mark Darcy as
well. Yeah, just came to me then.
Who can we get for Darcy?
Yeah.
I know, Mr. Darcy.
I'd just say it's something interesting that I never thought about.
I think that's an interesting choice on his part, though, as well.
Yeah, to agree to it.
It's almost taking the piss, really, isn't it? So he's obviously got a good sense of humour.
Well, yeah, and it was the first of those really modern parts as well.
Yeah. He was playing a modern 21st century bloke,
sort of his first big major modern character, and it's him being a parody of what he had already done.
I have to highlight just a few bits that I find really good. The first thing, I think, it's got a great soundtrack. It's very good. Obviously, it puts it in its time, frame, because it's all the the songs that came out around about the time, but it does work really well.
I think all of his films do, though, too. I mean, even Wet, Wet, Wet for Forward. And
I think that's better than the movie, to be honest. I have to admit, it came on at the end. I was like, well, this is the bit that everybody was interested in, because the song was huge when this came out. But he has a really great relationship with music. I think he really loves music, and therefore it's a really big element in his movies. And this worked really well.
It works well for nostalgia as well when you look back.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're like time capsules of themselves.
Yeah, well, that's what I think works within the movies. That's what dates them, if anything, but not in a bad way. In a nice way. Like you say, it's a time capsule. It's a nostalgic element.
Yeah, it's a time stamp rather than a time... Yeah.
The bit I've just got to highlight is the fight. Between Colin Firth and Hugh Grant's characters.
Is it in the first one in the restaurant?
Yes, it starts in the street, goes into the restaurant, and then come out of the window. Literally.
Is this where they stop to sing Happy Birthday and they're apologising to everyone?
Yes. Oh, it's fantastic.
Sorry.
I'm so sorry. Of course I'll pay. It's just... Yeah, it's brilliant. And he's singing Happy Birthday, what's his name? It's brilliant. It's so well choreographed, because obviously it's choreographed, it needs to be. But it does not appear choreographed at all. That is how a real fight between two normal men would go.
Awkward.
They would be like grabbing each other's chins and pushing and shoving and trying to kick them but missing,
slapping each other.
Do you know what? It feels so realistic, but it's hilarious to watch.
Oh, that's made me really want to watch
it. There's just the scenes in it that are fantastic. And that really stands out as a highlight for me. It's another one. It's just entertaining. It's just, you finish the film, you've watched. I really enjoy listening to like Bridget, her narration and the story. Like she's so entertaining, and you come out satisfied. It's another one. It's happy movie, and it finishes well. You're just like, oh well, yeah, I really enjoyed that. So it's that type of movie.
Yeah.
Very reliable, very entertaining, very British.
Just everything that he was good at. Obviously, he didn't write it, but he did the screenplay.
Picked up on it.
Yeah. Sort of highlighted those parts and brought his newfound genre elements and put it onto it and made it, like I say, it made the book more than the book was. Does that make sense?
I think it really did. It really did. It was very well done. But now we're going to move on to his piece de resistance.
This is like the seminal apotheosis of everything.
This is his movie he's going to be remembered for.
Yeah,
definitely. This is the one.
Oh, it's just so good.
So I'm going to hand it over to you for Love Actually, because you are a huge fan of Love Actually.
It's my second favourite film.
Yes, I think it's fair to say you're a big fan.
It's interesting watching, I think even you said it, watching these films, because they're rom-coms and then trying to write stuff about them is kind of, it's just different, isn't it?
Yeah.
What I love about this is that it seems like all of the ideas that Richard had in his, I'm calling him Richard now, first name basis, had in his head.
We're there. We're
there. All these ideas that he had for full feature films that he kind of knew that he'd never get around to making them all, he then put in these sort of episodes, these interlocking episodes. I think actually I watched an interview with, I don't know who it was, maybe GQ or something, and he kind of said, the Prime Minister's story was an idea I had for a full film. The Colin Firth plot where he gets cheated on and goes to wherever he goes to, and that was apparently meant to be a full film as well. And I think that's what makes it the ultimate rom-com, really, is because every story
all its own stories.
Exactly, yeah. a bit like you said with Four Weddings, it's not always love in the traditional, typical sense. So in this, you've got husbands and wives and boyfriends and girlfriends, but you've got fathers and sons, you've got colleagues,
best friends, and
childhood romances, brother and sister, widowers, all sorts of stuff is in there.
Like you say, what's so clever about it is all of the stories stand alone. By themselves perfectly, but then the fact that the way that they're all interweaved and the characters know each other, and it doesn't seem like, oh well, that's a bit of a coincidence, isn't it? It just fits. They all know each other in a way that works. You know what I mean? It's and they just weave together, and it's so cleverly done. And what's brilliant about this is, I think he kind of built up to it. Like he's known for his casting, his ensembles, but I think Four Weddings was kind of an accident. It feels like an accident. It's got all these great like people in it that make a great ensemble, but I don't think he wanted an ensemble. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it just became one. And then it built to this huge ensemble.
When we look at it as obviously I did a lot of work on multiple narrative films. Several years
of them. Just a tad.
2 dissertations. But to what, again, I think it's the same video I was watching, for him to have brought up Robert Altman and his films from Nashville 1975 and Shortcuts, and he sort of made this network narrative, and it was all to do with people who know people who know people, and you could link them, and you would have this great big mosaic of everybody's little stories going on. And I was so pleased that he actually mentioned that as an influence, because it kind of validated everything I'd written about, and I was like, oh, thank God for that. But yeah, the idea that you can put together a web or a network of people and flip between them. He kind of did it in Four Weddings, but there was one main plot. Hugh Grant's plot was the main one. In this one, you could take out any of the stories and watch them individually. So there's just a different approach to it here. And on the back of Love Actually, you got things like Valentine's Day, New Year's Eve, He's Just Not That Into You. All those films that are kind of rom-com-y.
Yeah, people looked at it and went, wow, that's great. Let's see if we can do that. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's got its legacy in so many other films. Again, it's so perfectly cast. I mean, it's British talent at its height. It really is.
I don't think there's been anything as good as this casting-wise since.
It is absolutely superb. And all of the people that they've picked, they are really famous. You can point everybody out. You've got the likes of Liam Neeson, you've got Rowan Atkinson, Emma Thompson, and everybody is great. And there's a couple in there that were more at the time up and coming. You've got the likes of Chiwetel Ejiofor and Andrew Lincoln, Keira Knightley, that kind of storyline. All of them were a lot less well known at the time. They've become much bigger over the years.
Martin Freeman actually as well.
Yeah, Martin Freeman as well. Yeah, Alan Rickman was one of the the big ones. He was a big part, and they're just all fantastic.
It's almost perfect, isn't it?
There's 2 things I want to highlight. One's on a positive note, one's on a negative. So the positive I'm going to start with is the Emma Thompson scene in the bedroom,
of course,
with the song. Joni Mitchell. It is one of the greatest scenes I think I've ever seen. And
it's very good.
Her performance, so it's one of her greatest performances. I think it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, and again, drama underpins the whole thing.
It's just, I watch that and I just sob. I just feel so sorry for her.
It's very authentic.
And when you think about it, you think, oh my God, it must be this massive scene, but it's not. It's so small and subtle and it just moments, but it's just heartbreaking. That, have to highlight that, because it's just superb. The second thing I've got to highlight is my only issue with the movie, because it's again, a very satisfying script. It all wraps itself up in the end, and happy ending and all this, except for Laura Linney.
Yeah,
you never find out what happens to Laura Linney, and it's always bothered me that they never tied up her storyline, because everybody else's is tied up, and it really bothers me.
But can her story be tied up? That's the thing.
Yes, it should. She should have got the guy. Of course she should. She'd been waiting for him for years.
But she knew she couldn't commit the time because of her circumstances, and that would always get in the way. I'm
not happy. I don't like it. So that's my only issue.
On the flip side, I like how, again, it took that sort of realistic approach. Like life, not everything's necessarily tied up with the bow and the ribbon. And the fact that, even Emma Thompson's story, you can't really say that's tied up as such. In fact, we weren't really even told what happened.
Yeah, she's accepted him back, but the relationship's changed.
I don't know. Are they together?
Yeah, I think so, but she's obviously not accepted him at the end. They're not together.
But there's lots of things that do end happy.
There's a lot, lots of happy endings.
The two characters, as I've gotten older and older and older, who I absolutely think it's brilliant, is Martin Freeman and Joanna Page as the porn body double.
It's a hell of a way to meet.
The situation that they're in, and they're just talking about the traffic, I just think it's perfect. Honestly, I've made a list. It's not comprehensive, but key scenes. Any scene with Will Nye, literally, I think this is the best he's ever been.
He is just fabulous. There's just so great lines. I love his line with Ant and Dec where he's like, "Don't take drugs, kids. Become a pop star. They'll give you them for free." It's just, there's so many great bits in it.
I've actually wrote that, the Ant and Dec scene. He goes, "Thank you, Ant or Dec." What else? Yeah, the Rowan Atkinson gift wrap scene. I just think all of these individually are just... You'd be lucky to get one of these in any other rom-com.
Yeah, they're fantastically written script.
The Prime Minister, Hugh Grant's dance scene and his arrival, and he meets Martine McCutcheon, who can't stop swearing. I think Martine McCutcheon's very good in this.
She is.
In like a bad way.
She is. Yeah, she's just great. They all are. My one of my favourite relationships in it is between Liam Neeson and Thomas Brodie Sangster as Sam.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting relationship because he's the widower, but it's not his son.
Yeah.
So that could have been very different. But I think it shows a really great bond between them. I really enjoy watching those parts. I love the bit where I love the bit with Titanic in it.
Oh, yeah.
So, do you trust me? It's fool. I love that. That's brilliant.
The famous cue card scene, with Keira Knightley and...
Yes, of course. Andrew Lincoln, that's right. That was a very famous scene.
And when she watches the wedding video that he's put together of just her...
Yeah, and you see her smiling, then all of a sudden it clicks, and you see it in her eyes.
Yeah.
You see her understanding.
Yeah, and the dread. He's just stood there thinking, God, she's caught me.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
I think the list actually could go on. I think the funeral scene's great too.
It is. It's fantastic.
It's literally moment to moment to moment to moment, and it just never lets up. So many good things.
So we should mention our two players here, Colin Firth and Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
So I think this is Hugh Grant at his best kind of nice guy role. I think it's just because he's just best intentions, but very awkward.
Yeah.
Not quite as awkward as some of his earlier characters. It's just a nice amount of awkward.
Well, I think what's interesting here is that he asked Richard Curtis to make this character different. He said, I don't want to play the same anymore. And he said, oh yeah, this one's different. And then Hugh Grant even said, but I just did it the same anyway.
And Colin Firth as well. Colin Firth is, again, I think I prefer him in this to Bridget Jones. He's just got this innocent, bumbling, awkward guy, but he's really nice at heart. And he's, I just think it's a great storyline, that one as well. It's just really, really nice. I love it when he turns up with all the Christmas presents and then he just turns around and walks away. I hate Uncle... What's his name in this?
I hate Uncle Jamie. I think the thing was with Bridget Jones is that his character all along is meant to be misunderstood, isn't it? We see it from Bridget's perspective, or we see it from Elizabeth Bennet's perspective, I suppose, and it's misunderstood. So you don't get so much of him being revealed, I suppose, but in this you do.
Yeah. I have to just add one thing in about Love Actually, because obviously it's not just a film now, it's a Christmas film.
Yes, that's another whole dimension of it.
Yeah, it's got this whole other legacy now, which, I mean, it's nice because films that have this will go on and on. It's nice, they're going to live forever because they're watched every year. And become classics in their own right. And not everybody's going to go, oh yeah, I watch Love Actually at Christmas, as I watch all of the Christmas films known to man. I do. So
it's not even an exaggeration.
No, it's really not. No, but it's just nice to know that for some people it's a staple. of that time of the year. I mean, I didn't watch Love Actually for this because I can't watch it any other time than from November onwards to December. I can't watch it. I have like a month and a half window where I can watch it, and that's it, because it's too Christmassy for me. I completely associate it with Christmas.
I think that's the thing. All of his films are feel good.
Yes.
And combining it then with Christmas, I think, was almost the best decision he ever made.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. There's a reason it worked so well and that people watch every year, is because it really did work.
Mm-hmm.
So
good.
We have watched the movies. We've looked into the careers.
Yep.
And we now have to pick our top 3 favourite performances from each of these actors. Would you like to start, or would you like me to start?
You start.
I'll start. And who would you like to start with? Who should we start with?
Let's do Colin Firth.
Okay.
I try to do favourite performance, but I can't. So I think inevitably we've got 2 different lists, and in a way this might help, so we can appreciate a broader pool of films that they've done.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think we might cross over a bit too much.
Well, I think our listeners will have noticed by now that when I say favourite, it's favourite because I just really like it. Whereas your favourite is the best performance that they actually give.
Yeah.
So they're quite different lists. We have very different ideas of what favourite is. But that's quite nice. I like that.
Yeah, it's different.
There's not as much overlap.
Okay.
So my number 3, we've just talked about it, is Love Actually. Colin Firth in Love Actually. I really like him as Jamie. By that point, he'd done a lot of different roles. This wasn't a complicated one for him to play because it was like other things he'd done, but he does it so well, doesn't he?
Yeah, sort of effortless.
Yeah, and I just love it. Yeah, I really like him in this. What about you?
I struggled because although I like all the rom-com, in fact I don't think I've put a single rom-com performance in any of these lists.
Oh wow.
Because like we just said, the performance didn't require a lot from them. I think it was very easy, it came very natural to a lot of them. So I've gone Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Oh, okay.
He's barely in it. However, the scenes that he is in and the fact that the whole film in general is very atmospheric, the whole point is that everybody's kind of suspicious, that that one of these 5 men is at the Soviet mole in British intelligence.
Yeah.
With Colin Firth, there's a certain laid-backness, and it's very clever, really, because you can read that 2 ways, that he's self-assured or smug or he's got nothing to worry about, or it could be the complete opposite, and actually he's the one putting on an act. I won't say what happens, but there's some very human elements to his character too that come out, and I think, go on then. Yeah. 3rd place.
Okay. My number 2 for Colin Firth is The King's Speech. He won the Best Actor for this, rightly so, I think, because I think he's fantastic in this.
Yeah,
I really do think he's fabulous. It's got elements that he doesn't do in his other films. It's got this serious edge that he's not done. Not only that, but you've got the vocal and the physical kind of parts to it as well, which he just absolutely pulled off perfectly. I think he's just deservedly got a lot of praise for this because he is very good in it.
Yeah, agreed.
And that's all I'm going to say. Just go watch it, people. Go watch it.
Just go watch it. Okay, my number 2, I've gone with A Single Man.
I haven't seen this one.
I mean, it's by Tom Ford, the fashion designer.
Yeah, he got a lot of attention for it. I remember when it came out. So
Colin Firth plays a British university lecturer, but he's living and teaching in California in the 60s.
Yeah.
And he's just gravely depressed. His partner of 16 years died in a car accident recent to when the film starts, and it's just literally left him broken, literally heartbroken. He's had a heart attack. He struggles to wake up every day because it's just a reminder that he's just waiting to die, basically.
Wow. Have to give this one a watch.
It's set over 24 hours, and on this particular day he puts a gun in his briefcase. When he goes to school, he clears his office, he goes to the bank, he empties his deposit box, and he lines everything up ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I think I'm going to have to go watch that now.
There's some flashback scenes of especially the conversation on the phone when he's told the news. It's hard to describe, really, because although his composure's intact, the way you just see him almost shrivel.
Come apart.
Yeah. Very special performance.
Oh, I'll have to watch that. Okay. My number 1, you're not going to like this. You're really not going to like this. You're
Mamma
going to
Mia,
be
obviously.
so angry that I've put it. It's not Mamma Mia.
What?
It is not Mamma Mia. My favourite Colin Firth performance is What a Girl Wants.
What?
What a Girl Wants is God. My favourite Colin Firth. I love him in that.
I feel a bit sick.
I told you.
I haven't seen it, to be fair.
It's a movie that means a lot to me because it came out in my impressionable years, like going into my teens.
It's like me and a Cinderella story, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. And it meant a lot to me at the time. I really enjoyed the film. And I think he just has a great arc in it.
Okay.
He plays a man who he didn't know he had a daughter and finds out when she's like 17. She's American, very outgoing. He's like running for a seat in like politics and things, and he's got his like life planned out, his career and how it's going to go, and he's going to marry this awful woman who wants to be with him for power, and it's just awful. And really, he's not like that. He's becoming this person that he did never really want to be. And this young daughter comes into his life and reminds him of who he was and what he actually wanted. But it's nice to see the shell coming apart through the film, and seeing what he's really like.
I don't think anyone's ever put that film on a list of.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not.
Someone's got to do it.
It is
first time for everything.
It is one of my favourites. I rewatched it a few months ago actually, and I hadn't seen it in years. I just thought, oh my god, there's a reason I love this because this is great. I just thoroughly enjoyed it.
She put it above the King's Speech.
I did.
Right.
I did. For sheer nostalgic reasons because I just love that
But
one.
like we said, you're doing favourite, I'm doing what I think is best.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Because
exactly.
I put the King's Speech at number 1.
I would never say that he's better in What a Girl Wants than he is in the King's Speech. Right. I'm not saying that. Okay. I'm saying that it's my favourite.
Specific criteria. Well, you've mentioned this one already, so I'll just even just vocally, this is a very impressive performance, and it comes across so authentic. And he's not just doing the whole. Lots of people win Oscars for playing people who have disabilities or illnesses or things like that, but he's also playing a historical figure.
Yeah, a real person. Yeah,
and we just root for him so much in this film.
Oh yeah.
It's an expectation of him to lead the country, and he's not taken seriously because he can't form the words.
Yeah.
Just watching the trust and confidence grow, and then that final scene where he makes, the title, the King's Speech at the eve of war.
Yeah.
God.
It's very, very well done. Okay, so we'll jump straight on to Hugh Grant then.
Yep.
So number 3 for me, and I have mentioned this to you a few times this week, is Paddington 2.
Okay.
Oh, it's just, it's exceptional. It's like taking the piss out of everything that he was and the acting profession and hamming it up.
It is very funny, to be fair.
It is. It's just brilliant. It is really, really well done. And he looks like he's having a ball doing it. He really does look like he's enjoying himself.
Obviously, they made him do a lot of humiliating things, and as someone who doesn't really like humiliation, it's kind of funny to watch him do it.
Yes, it is. But he does look. I think he looks like he's having a laugh. I think he really let himself go for this one and just let it all out, and it's just fab.
Perfect vehicle for him.
Yeah, really good.
Right, my number 3. I only watched this yesterday. I've gone for that film, Maurice.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's just so different.
I do want to see this. I really do.
To everything else that he's done, really. And the first film that made him get notice, the subject matter of it as well. So obviously they're 2 young men who meet and sort of fall in love very quickly at the beginning of the film at university at Cambridge. And then it chronicles the next sort of 15 years or so and the arc of his character. So initially he's the one who's very comfortable, very open. He's the one that initiates a lot of it. Yeah. But when one of their mutual friends is sort of charged and imprisoned on, indecency and immoral basis for doing those kinds of things, he completely changes. He worries for his social status. He worries for his career. Yeah. And he goes down a very different path. He rejects the main character. It's just hard because you understand the reason why he's done it. It's a safeguarding thing, but at the same time, you kind of hate him for doing it. But all the time behind his eyes, you're like, how he really feels.
Yeah, and what he really wants.
Very complex performance in that respect.
Okay, so my number 2 for Hugh Grant is that it's the only film that appears in both lists.
Oh, okay.
And it is Love Actually.
Fair enough.
Both of them are fantastic in this. Like I said, it's for the exact same reasons that I feel Colin Firth was great. He was given a role that there was no way he could not do this well, because it just fit him like a glove. And yeah, I think it played to all of the best points that Hugh Grant has as a performer. It had moments of real greatness, obviously the speech and this more serious part, and actually makes you look at him a bit differently. But then you've also got the really comedic moments, the dancing, and then they're going around and singing carols on trying to find the right door. And there's, it's one of those very satisfying performances. So yeah, that's my number 2.
Maybe the most iconic of his.
Yeah.
He even looks a bit like Tony Blair. People like that. He looks like he could be he could have been the Prime Minister in another life.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, another first time watch for me. Number 2, I've put About a Boy.
Oh, yes, I did see you enjoyed this one.
There's something about this one. His character's in a bit of a unique position because he's kind of jobless, but because his dad wrote this popular Christmas song and he's just living off the royalties. So the whole point of his character is he's got no responsibilities, he's got no commitments. Everything is a no strings attached arrangement, I suppose. It's a very selfish way of living, which isn't bad until he starts involving other people, and he's sort of this serial dater.
Yeah.
When he realises that he can get with single mums because they have lower expectations of men and they're more likely to dump him at the end rather than him having to do it. Things like that. But just watching him lie compulsively, sometimes with characters, it's very annoying to watch people dig holes. With him, it's just hilarious. There's one bit where he tells a lie about how a duck died. It's actually because Nicholas Holt's character throws this loaf of bread at the duck. But there's the way he just schemes and gets around and gets away with it every time. But at the same time, he's got a flip side. People who do know him quite well, he's brutally honest with instead. So at one point, he's asked to be the godfather of their baby, and he basically very bluntly says, well, I'd probably drop her on her head at her christening. I'd forget all of her birthdays until she's 18, when I'll take her out and, let's face it, possibly try to shag her. And the whole thing's just sort of, it was very close to the knuckle, and it's very well done. And when they say to him, oh, I just thought you had more hidden depths, and he's like, well, no.
None.
That's where you've got it all wrong. I really am this shallow.
I am an arse, yes.
He just sort of lives that character, and he kind of perfect for him.
Yeah.
It was very good.
Well, my number 1, I have to admit, between Love Actually and this one, there's not a lot. And I actually think, in a way, I almost prefer him in Love Actually as a character.
All right.
But I think just performance-wise and just the entire thing as a whole, it would be Notting Hill
Definitely
for me.
Cloud Atlas.
No, not for me. Yeah, Notting Hill, I think it's more for the overall, not just him. It's him being a piece of this overall film, because I really like Notting Hill. I like him with Julia Roberts, and I like the story, and I like what he does in it.
The centre of that world, isn't he?
Yeah, it's not necessarily that I like him. I don't think I like him as a character better. I think he's a bit of an idiot, really. He doesn't really have much going for him. He looks kind of boring, really. He doesn't really do a lot, does he? No. So I think I actually prefer the Prime Minister, really, in a way. But I just think, obviously, he's just very good in Notting Hill. Again, it was a part that he would just be able to play easily. It might even have been written for him, because he's just able to pull that off perfectly well. This bumbling British guy who's in a world that he could never imagine he would have been in with this American movie star. And yeah, I think as a whole, he's a great part of that film. Yeah,
Richard Curtis apparently wrote it based on the real life encounter of one of his friends and someone who was an extremely world famous person. And it's still unknown to this day who it's based on.
Wow. Well, that would be interesting to know.
No idea. So, number 1, this might make your day. Number 1, Paddington 2.
Oh my God! I can't believe it. Wow.
I didn't rewatch the whole film, but I watched some clips on YouTube.
Not Cloud Atlas. I'm sorry, I just can't. I can't get over this. Paddington 2.
As we established in the Cloud Atlas episode, it's not about the performances being good. It was more about what it was about. So I couldn't possibly have put a Cloud Atlas. So I went back and watched some of the clips. God's sake, I was crying. It's just, I don't know if it's because I watched them in isolation, just like that, without the broader context of the film. But yeah, there's just a lot of enjoyment that comes from watching him as Phoenix Buchanan, because you apply what you know about Hugh Grant as a person onto that character.
I love him talking to the characters and then replying. He's like talking to his dummies with all the clothes on.
He's a complete psychopath, though, isn't he?
Yeah, he is really.
It's like a light-hearted psychopath character. I mean, Hugh Grant's very funny. He's very good at comedy, obviously.
Yeah.
Anyway, but combining with the ridiculous situations that he's put in, like him as the nun or him practicing the dance.
I'd love to see him as the nun in a full movie.
Oh, yeah.
I'd really like that.
There's something about Paddington anyway, the whole tone and the atmosphere
lovely,
of it.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a whole nother dimension of funny. There's an element of magic, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just works.
So that's it. That's it. That is Colin Firth and the British RomCom, so to speak, and Hugh Grant and bumbling British awkwardness, and
Richard Curtis, right? We've made it a Richard Curtis episode.
Richard Curtis, we have, we're incidentally.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if people already love The Vicar of Dibley and Mr. Bean and The Thin Blue Line and Blackadder.
He is a staple of Britishness, British entertainment.
He's an absolute national treasure.
He is.
And he's still making great stuff.
Oh, absolutely. So, moving on, because we'll start a whole new conversation otherwise. So we've got just a little bit of news. There's been two big stories this week. The shocking death of Chadwick Boseman. 43. It's just tragic. And I think that the shock of it came from the fact that nobody knew he was ill.
Yeah, it's sort of the last thing you expect to see.
He had colon cancer for 4 years. So he was obviously, this will have been while he was making Black Panther and the Avengers movies. All of this time he was suffering through this and nobody knew about it. And then all of a sudden he was just gone. I think he had so much more to contribute.
Very promising.
It's such a loss, I really do think, to the entertainment community.
If I'm honest, I haven't seen a lot of his stuff, but in a way, even without having seen a lot of his things,
you just know he's good.
Well, the testimony, everything that came out, all the nice things that people had to say about him.
Yeah, beloved, absolutely beloved.
A bit of a blow.
It's such a loss, tragic. Yeah, it was awful news. And then the other news, were probably tragic to some people. I'm not really that bothered. Is that Robert Pattinson has got COVID apparently. So they've shut down Batman again. I was unaware that they'd picked it up. I wasn't aware that they started filming again. Yeah, I can't imagine it'll have been for long. But they've now had to shut down again due to him contracting that. Yeah,
it's a very expensive manoeuvre, but is it a sort of a message to say that it should have waited? Should it all have waited?
I think so. Yeah, I think the people who are trying to push forward too soon, because let's face it, filmmaking is an extremely intimate experience. Yeah. They're all close together. There's no space, it just doesn't work that way. And I just think you are taking too much risk.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how that develops. So, very, very quickly, what's your recommended film for this week, Matt?
I toyed with it. I've not written anything down, so it will be off the cuff. So I'm going to go with, I think, in terms of recommending something that I don't think everyone would have seen, I maybe would have done About a Boy, but I'm going to go with A Single Man instead. I mean, if you've seen Nocturnal Animals, you know what Tom Ford can do as a director. And it is quite an artistic film. It's very much like you're in the head of that character. The whole film is a portrait. In fact, the film is a painting, it's a photograph, it's a piece of music, actually, for a lot of it. It's almost like a waltzy kind of piece of music, and it's a film. So it's a very expressive image of this one person's life on one day at a very specific moment in time. And Colin Firth is great. Julianne Moore is fantastic. Nicholas Holt's in this. He's good too. It's something different, but with familiar faces.
Well, I definitely want to give it a go after you describing it. I definitely want to give that a watch.
I don't know if you would like it, but I think you won't be able to deny the things that are good about it.
Mine, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, yeah.
1971, I think. Gene Wilder. It's one of those British films that you just watch it and go, yeah, this is how you did it then. This is a childhood classic. It's very gritty, really. It doesn't look all colourful and
it's
bright
not
and childish. And no, it really is actually for the first. I think you don't even get into the factory until you don't even see Willy Wonka until about 50 minutes in, and it's only an hour and 35 minutes long.
Oh wow!
At least half is not even about the chocolate factory; it's getting to that point. Issues of class and.
Paedophiles.
It is very grounded, really. I did really relate the golden ticket finding and the buying like the hundreds of things. Do you know what it really reminded me of when the COVID started and people were buying up all of the toilet paper and things and all of this and there not being things on the shelves and that kind of hysteria of people buying. It really reminded me of that.
Greed, isn't it? The whole film's about greed.
Yeah.
And paedophiles.
So yeah, perhaps not.
No.
But yeah, I just thought it's such a lovely watch and it's so nostalgic to what like childhood films were made in Britain at that time. And yeah, I would definitely watch that. It's such a good.
Yeah, I think it's been long enough now that I could read it differently.
It's funny. There's a lot of funny bits in it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. So that's it. That's the episode. So, Matt, where can they find us?
Wow, you can find... Got to go right into it then. Well, you can find us on the website, cinechat.co.uk/podcast, or on any social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. Just search Cinechat Podcast and look for our blue logo. Or you can email us at
podcast@cinechat.co.uk.
Nicely done.
Thought so.
Next episode.
Right, this is the biggie.
Yeah.
We are taking on a project. This is not just one film or one person's film. It's a person's film. He just happens to have an enormous catalogue.
Lots of them. Yeah.
Of very famous films. We are doing a 3-part Hitchcock extravaganza. Is the only way of putting it.
Yeah.
So we're starting part 1 in the next episode. And oh my God, do we have some stuff for you. You will see the likes of Rebecca, Vertigo, The Man Who Knew Too Much, Dialing for Murder, just to name a few.
Yep.
It's going to be epic.
And many more to come.
Yes, it's going to be epic.
We're doing 18 Hitchcock films, people. So
we're going to be busy.
Yeah.
It's going to be absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
He just has this classic old style movie making, but it's just perfect.
There's nobody better. Like you can make comparisons, but there is no.
Yeah,
he's definitively one of the
greats. Yeah. So this is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to this. So catch us then on next episode, Hitchcock Part 1.
Yeah, takes us up to Halloween.
Yeah, it does. It really does. So that's bye from me.
Crazy good. And it's bye from me.